Hello everyone. Let us revise the concept from deadlocks, and apparently we shall take up the discussion towards Banker's algorithm, which is one of the prominent case study. That is what we are going to handle it across in the course of system programming and operating system. So before I proceed, let me set up the agenda for this particular discussion. So we shall discuss what is the system model, the deadlock characterizations, methods for handling the deadlocks, and deadlock prevention. So out of this whole discussion, let us seize the particular topic for this the initial session, that will be on the deadlocks. And apparently we shall go ahead and start discussing about what exactly is a deadlock, particularly when it comes to an operating system, and how do we take care of handling the deadlocks with the help of various system models. A quick example, as all of us we know, normally when there is a race condition happening between multiple processes, and typically let's say the multiple processes requiring or let's say demanding the same resource, and at the same time let's say the block process which is holding a resource and waiting for another process to release the resource to complete its task. Let me give an example here. Let us say P0 and P1, these are two processes, okay, and P0 is holding let's say the resource A and it is waiting for the resource B. I repeat, P0 is holding the resource A and it is waiting for the resource B. Similarly, P1 is holding the resource B and it is waiting for the resource A. So what is the trade-off, or let's say what is the scenario over here is, unless and until both the processes get both resources at the same time, they will not be able to complete their task. Okay, as they want to have the resources which are concurrently hold or let's say has been acquired by the another processes. Unless P0 get A and B together, it will not be able to complete its task. Similarly, P1, unless it get A and B resources together, it will not be able to complete its task. The typical example what we used to discuss, let us say that to complete a particular assignment, you want to have two books. Okay, so maybe a book on system programming and a book on operating system. So student 1 is having a book on system programming and student 2 is having, let's say, the book on system programming, operating system. Now, unless and until both of them have both the resources, like both the books together, he or she will not be able to complete its task. And this is how that enters in a deadlock. So the typical definition of a deadlock is when multiple processes are holding the resources and they are waiting for another process to release the resources so that they will be able to complete their task. Why it may happen? Because there is always a possibility that to complete a task to its execution, a single process may require multiple resources at the same time. As an example, maybe if I have to complete my task, let's say about assignment printing, I require to have the CPU, memory, as well as the IO at the same time. Like unless I get my printer available, I'll not be able to complete my task. Okay, so this is a generic scenario where you want to have multiple resources available at the same time. Then only you will be able to complete the task to its execution. The typical analogy what we have learned in school days, imagine this particular situation or scenario when there is a one-sided bridge and apparently the traffic flow before and after the bridge, that is happening both sided. So what if two vehicles come in front of each other? So this is the situation, and in that case this particular bridge crossing example, when the two vehicle arrive before each other, this is what we call it as a deadlock. So what exactly is the solution in this case? So with this analogy, all of us we can remember and we can give the solution like, if I want to have a solution for this bridge crossing, what the thing is, either of the vehicle has to backtrack, like it has to get back, and then only the another vehicle will be able to cross itself. Okay, so this is the situation. That means there is a possibility that one process has to release its resources so that another process will be able to complete its execution. I repeat, what is the solution in this case? One process has to release its resources, then only the another process will be able to complete its execution. Okay, so that means this is what we say, that the traffic should be opened in a single direction. But what is the particular challenge over here? If the situation continues, if the problem or let's say the scenario continues, then there is always a possibility that some process may enter in starvation. So it is like the numerous vehicles coming and crossing from this side only, and there is a huge queue which has been formed on a left side because apparently they did not get the chance to avail the resource and get the bridge crossed. Okay, So what if a process releases the resources, then there is always a possibility that that may enter in a starvation. Okay. So a generic example of analogies, and with that case, like we will try to understand the typical situation or deadlocks. Taking the system model into account, when apparently we are talking about deadlocks, particularly for operating system, let us say my operating system has to handle the various resources R1, R2, up to Rm. You can correlate it like it may be the various CPU cycles, it might be the memory spaces or the IO devices. And now each resource of type I, R will be having the WI instances. So as an example, like we shall see it in the form of a resource allocation graph. What this WI instance means that a single resource may be granted to multiple user at the same time. What this W signifies that a single resource can be granted to multiple processes at the same time. So as an example, a printer may be allocated to multiple user at the same time. This is what we say that WI is the instances. And now when any resource requirement is coming, so particularly that has been handled in 3 phases. The process should request for the resource. Second thing, when the resource is allocated, that will be conveyed in the form of use of the resource. And once the resource is done, like okay, once the task is completed to its execution, the process has to release its resource. So primarily the resource allocation graph is signified in these 3 terminologies. One is request, another is use, and the third is release. Now the typical characterizations of deadlock, as far as when we talk it in terms of operating systems. So deadlocks may arise because of the different conditions. Is the first thing is it's due to the mutual exclusion. That is, only one process can execute at a time, and that is what it can hold the resources. If at all there are all other concurrent processes that should be in waiting. Second thing is hold and wait. There is a possibility that a process may be holding at least one resource and it is waiting to acquire the additional resource so that it completes to its ultimate execution. So the example of, let's say I am having a system software book and I'm waiting to get the operating system book, then only I'll be able to complete it. So this situation is called as hold and wait. No preemption. A resource can be released only voluntarily by the processes holding it. So this is the exact crunch, or let's say the typical challenge in handling and characterization of the deadlocks. Apparently when an operating system assigns some resources to certain process, it will not be able to withdraw these resources unless the process voluntarily returns it. Or the other way around, we can say that unless the process completes its total execution, it will not be releasing the resource and the operating system cannot withdraw it. Okay, so this is normally we assume that although there is a deadlock, but there should not be hard shutdown of the processes. And obviously the next thing is about circular wait. Apparently we shall see it with the help of the actual graph. So circular wait is like multiple processes are holding certain resources and they're waiting for another processes to grant some additional resources to them. Okay, so like P0 is holding some resource and P1 want to have the same resource from P0, and likewise P2 want to have the resource from P1. So there is a cyclic waiting, and this is what we call it as a circular wait. Okay, so the typical characterization of the deadlock, that there is a possibility that you may have mutual exclusion, that you would be only able to allow or let a single process to be executing at a time. The processes may hold and wait for the resources. There may not be any preemption, that is you cannot do the hard shutdown of the processes, and there would be a possibility of circular waits. Let us get back to the graphical representation and what exactly we talk in the form of a resource allocation graph. So whenever I had to detect the deadlocks prima facie, if at all that is happening in the form of operating system, or let's say the CPU scheduling or process synchronizations, then the first thing is like we go ahead and try to identify what the resource allocation graph signifies to us. Okay, so in resource allocation graph, let us make certain terminologies clear. Like P is a set of processes, R is a set of resources. And now P want to request something to R, so that can be given in the form of a directed edge. So the resource requirement from P1 to Rj is given in the form of a directed edge. Similarly, if R assign the resource to P, obviously R will be having multiple instances. So if the resources are the instances assigned to P, that will be given in this form of the directed graph, or let's say the directed edge. Apparently moving ahead with this particular terms, the way we represent our resource allocation graph is like, let us define our processes by circles. A resource which will be having multiple instances will be given in the form of a square box. And now this resource is having multiple instances. For example, there are 4 instances here, which are shown by 4 dots. P1 requesting for RJ. So this is the directed age. If RJ assign the resource to P, this will be in the form of this directed age. Okay, so this is the basic nomenclature to represent our resource allocation graph. Let us go to this particular example case here. As we can see, P1, P2 and P3, these are my multiple processes. Now, P1 is demanding something for R1. Okay, so this is the directed age. It shows us a request. So P1 is requesting R1, but R1 already is being assigned to P2. And there is only one instance. What is need to be taken into account? R1 is having a single instance that has been granted to P2. Likewise, P2 is demanding for R3 and R3 is allocated to P3. There is an additional thread of discussion that R2 is having 2 instances and both the instances are assigned to P1 and P2. So now R2 do not have anything additionally available. Okay. So do we feel it is a circular weight? Because P1 want to have something from R1, R1 has allocated it to P2, P2 wants something from R3 and R3 has allocated to P3. So do we feel that there is a circular weight? Although there is a cycle involved, but there is not a circular weight because P3 further is not demanding anything. So there is a possibility that once P3 completes its execution, it will release R3. Once R3 is released, it will be given to P2. P2 will release R1 and R1 will be given to P1. So although there is a cyclic wait, but it is not entering in a deadlocks. Similarly, there is no process which is in starvation. That is another condition to check if there is a deadlock or not. So like here in this case, we can see that P1 is already holding something for R2. So that is, there is no one which is in deadlock. And beyond that, you have some additional resource which also can be granted to either of the processes. So that means you are having some excessive resources which also can be used in urgency. So that way, although there is a cyclic wait, but that does not mean that there is a deadlock. The other way around, what if the situation would have been if P3 demanded something for R2? Now here it comes the challenge. There exactly it releases or it reaches to a particular circular weight. Because P1, R2 given to P1, P1 demanding for R1. Why should I enter it in both of them? Because there may be a possibility that to complete to execution, P1 would require R2 and R1 simultaneously. I repeat, to complete its execution, P1 may require R1 and R2 simultaneously. And that is why I need to tolerate it. Subsequently, R1 is given to P2. P2 is demanding for R3. So unless R1 and R3 obtain together, or maybe R1, R2 and R3 obtain together, P2 cannot finish. So that also need to be taken into account. And again, there is a cyclic wait here. So there may be a possibility that that may enter in deadlock. Why I say there is maybe a possibility? Because here also in this situation, I have some additional resources which are unoccupied, or let's say which are unassigned. And that is the reason that we need to take that into account, that although there is a cyclic wait, but that does not mean that this particular thing will always be entering in a deadlocks. Now, if I don't have any additional resource and this is the situation, okay. So like R2 demanding it for P1 and then yeah, R2 has been assigned to P1, P1 is demanding for R1, R1 is being allocated to P2 and R1 is allocated to P3. And the third thing is now P3 is demanding for R2, but the another instance of R2 is assigned to P4 here. Okay. So although there is a cyclic wait, but why do we feel that there is a there may not be a deadlock? Because P4 is holding only R2. So once P4 finishes, it can release R2 that can be given to P3 and likewise the cycle can be resolved. So this is the case, like we say that although there is a cycle, but it will not be entering in a deadlocks. So there are certain facts that need to be taken into account, that if the graph contains no cycles, that means that there is no deadlock. But if the graph contains a cycle, And if there is only one instance per resource, then there is a possibility of deadlock. But the other way around, as is being shown here, that a single resource, if it is having multiple instances at a time, then there is a possibility that that may not enter in the deadlocks. Okay. So are we clear the way we are going to represent the things in the form of deadlock characterizations, and that has been represented in the form of a resource allocation graph. Okay. So what is the remedy, or let's say what is the solution for handling deadlocks? So we need to take into account that the system at all, we should not be entering in any sort of deadlock states. Even though if it enters in a deadlock, like we'll have to take care of that, how it can be recovered. Okay. And the third thing is, like always we say that many times the operating system act and respond smartly. So even though there is a deadlock, the operating system may throw an error or may throw a message that there is an unprecedented error has occurred and do you want to report it to some sources. Okay, so this is how, let's say, the operating system can pretend that there is a no deadlock, and if at all there is a no deadlock, like how it can be conveyed to the particular resources, or let's say particular organizations. The other way around, if I have to manage, or let's say if I have to handle across the deadlock, even the solution is the same. Okay, so what are the characteristics of the deadlock? The same can be utilized as a deadlock prevention parameters. So as an example, let us restrain the ways the request is made. So mutual exclusion means that should not be required for shareable resources. Make this a point clear that if a particular resource label it itself as a shareable resource, then you should not be entertaining the privilege of mutual exclusion. Whenever it is required, the operating system should be able to reallocate it to some another process. That is what we say it as a mutual exclusion should not be required for shareable resources. Second thing is hold and wait. So like I must guarantee that wherever there is a process request resource, it will not hold any another resources. So like if I have to complete the assignment, if I want to have a book of operating system, I should return the book of system programming. Okay, so this is how I can say that the process, if that requires some additional resource, first of all, it should release the pre-hold resources. Then only the challenge over here is that there may be a low resource utilization because you might be a bit conservative in handling this issue, and that may obviously enter in the starvations. The third thing is no preemption. That is, if a process is holding some resource request, that is the another resource cannot be immediately allocated to it unless and until it releases all the earlier resources. Okay, so this is the same thing. That is what we have been talking about, that there should not be any preemption, particularly if there is a scenario of hold and wait. Second thing is the preempted resources are added to the list of resources for which the process is waiting. Okay, so this is, we can say that based on that, we can emerge with some additional priority based algorithm as far as deciding the preempted resources and the way that has to be allocated to the newly joined processes. And the third thing is the process will be restarted only when it regains its all old resources, as well as now all the new resources what it is requiring. Okay, so that is what, if there is a multiple resources required at the same time, maybe the process may be preempted, that is it might be got down as far as the sequence of execution is concerned, and again the resources can be granted to it when these are freely available, that is all the other processes on priority, and those who want to have the standalone execution, that should be executed first to its completion, and once it's been done, then only this non-preempted processes which want multiple resources at the same time, that should be completely executed. Okay, so it is like I want to have the scanning and I want to have the xeroxing at the same time, and maybe the lamination. So in that case, maybe the storekeeper will ask me to come maybe afterwards, because he may handle across 3 different requests for the 3 different resources, and the person, or let's say the customer who want to have the all resources together at the same time, he or she might be preempted for a while. So this is, let's say, what we can say that is the solution of deadlock prevention with the help of non-preemptive cases. Then the next thing is circular wait. We can impose a total ordering of all resource types and require that each process requests the resource in an increasing order of enumeration. So this is obviously, we can say that I can maintain a waiting queue, and based on the order of a particular particular process in the queue, like I'll be taking up that particular process for execution. And this particular scenario, I can say that a circular wait. Okay. So like as the order of the process increases, the chances of it is getting the privileges of execution that will increase. Okay. Likewise, the deadlock avoidances, it requires that the system has some additional a priori information available. Okay, so this is a major concern and is one of the takeaway for handling the deadlocks, particularly for operating system, that any process should release its, or let's say should declare its resource requirement prior. I repeat, any process should declare its resource requirement prior. So once the resource requirement are quite known to the operating system, that will be easier to handle across that particular set of requests. Okay. Second thing is, the deadlock avoidance algorithm dynamically examines the resource allocation state to ensure that there can never be a circular wait condition. So it is an example, let's say I got 1,000 IP addresses which can be assigned to my campus students. So what I'll be doing is, like, I'll start allocating as many IP addresses to as many students as possible. But later, as I realize is that the bandwidth consumption has been reached to a particular threshold, maybe after 400 students itself. In that case, I might be a bit conservative in assigning the new addresses, or let's say the new Wi-Fi accesses to upcoming students. So this is how, let's say, the deadlock avoidance algorithm that will continuously or dynamically keep on examining the resource allocation state, and based on that, it will avoid the circular wait condition. Resource allocation state also can be defined by the number of available and allocated resources. So this is how, let's say, although I have a total capacity of 1,000 Wi-Fi users, but if at all my complete bandwidth might be consumed to the threshold by 400 itself, like I may curtail the further demands. And maybe it's the safe state we shall discuss, and based on that, any particular challenges, feel free to share it across on the Google Classroom or the community. And likewise, the same thing can be illustrated when we go ahead and discuss the things on Banker's algorithm. Okay. So at all, when we have been talking about, let's say, deadlock characterizations and deadlock prevention mechanisms, is the another important thing is, like, I need to take into the account what is the safest state of an operating system. So whenever the requests are arriving and the operating system is allocating the resources to the respective processes, I have to just make it sure that at any moment I should be in a safe state. At any moment I should be in a safe state. Now, what is a safe state? Let's take an example. Let us say I'm having 100 rupees in my pocket, and someone is asking me for some money. Okay. So in that case, even though I want to help him, I should just make sure that if any emergency arrives, I'll be able to handle it by my own. Okay. So singular penny example over here. So even though I have 100 rupees, I might at least keep some amount which is primarily required for my basic usages, and cutting it down, like I'll be just making it sure that how much help I'll be able to make to this guy. Okay, so it might be 40 rupees, might be 50 rupees. If nothing required, that also can be at 80 rupees. Okay, so that is what we can decide the safe state. So the similar way, let us say if I am having multiple processes P1 to Pn, and each process is demanding the different resources, I should just make it sure that although I accept all the resource requirement and I allocate the resources, I should not be bankrupt. I repeat, although I accept and releases the resources, at any moment I should not be bankrupt. And this is what we say it as a safe state. So safe state is going to be the basic thread for our discussion when we go for Banker's algorithm. Thank you.